Good morning, everybody. Hang on a second. Sorry, it's not always morning wherever you are. So, hi, everybody. Uh, Always better when we have something warm or very cool in our throats. So, welcome back. My name is Abby Hagyard. For those of you who are just joining us on our little quest, and I seem to have hair sticking. So, and I'm wearing my very shishi flamingo in honor of the fact that it's Thursday. This is the kind of Viking flamingo that we all knew and loved back in the day. So, for those of you, as I said, just joining us, I decided to get on this little program, this workout, mental, verbal, thought, direction, strategy workout, exactly 336 episodes ago. And since that fateful day, I have done 2 episodes a week. Tuesdays or Shoesdays, Thursdays or Thorsdays at 10 a.m. my time, which is New York City time. I'm in Ottawa, Canada. And the reason I decided to do that, as someone asked me the other day, what the hell are you thinking? Is because I was on television for quite a while. And I did a lot of live events and wrote some stage shows and produced them, and celebrated tourism and all that that means, and generally was involved in moving the conversation forward on whatever platform. Wrote some books, da, da, da. And then I went away. I went away because the ebb and flow of show business being what it is, there wasn't any work, and I joined a writer's agency and became a ghostwriter. And it was a fascinating exercise, not in humbling myself or reestablishing my roots, but looking at the construction we have going on in our head that leads us to think that's a good thing to say, I'm going to say it. That's a great thing to publish, I'm going to publish it. That's an amazing concept, I'm going to promote it. Because the view from here is very narrow. And it's incredibly difficult for us to take 5 steps back and see the bigger picture and not let go of how fond we are of our brilliant idea. We want to be right. We want it to be the thing that people need to hear this. People need to hear this. And when I when I have authors come to me and hire me to help them navigate their process, and they say they need to, I say, no, they don't. No, they don't. You need them to hear it. That's a different thing entirely. And it's going to frame how we help you write your book, how we help you say what you say for you, and then separately for them, because it's 2 different audiences. That takes a long curve, lean in and process and reluctantly recognize as valid. So, in the spirit of that, and in doing these episodes, my underlying purpose, because there's always a purpose, you always have a destination on the map. You're not just saying, let's go and see. So where I'm going with this is this. I think it's important, and I think it's also going to be fun, and I think it's going to be challenging and exciting, and maybe a little Abby crazy, who knows. But the concept is, well, good morning, Rhea. How wonderful to see you. Yes, it's snowing. Who? Why? Right? Why? I thought we were done with all that. In any case, my concept in recognizing that military brats like me, and good morning, Freddie, my military brats like myself, people who are raised in a situation that is constantly on the move, a gypsy life, if you like, transient life, if you like, we never get to see or fully form our idea of the way it is from here, because here is going to go over here in a minute, or it's going to go over here in a minute. And all the people that we hugged to us and said people like us changed, because some of them had other postings or stayed where they were for a while or went someplace else. And therefore, the number of signposts and foundation posts that people like me grow up clinging to are are very few and far between. And that does two things. It makes us very different in how we see the world, for sure, because we see it from a much more fluid perspective. It also makes us more ready to move, shape, and change where we plant our feet, what we say, this is who we are, how we present that to the world. And that, I said to myself during the COVID crisis, the pandemic crisis, which was arguably the biggest, scary, nobody knows what they're doing moment in probably a minimum of two generations, ours and our parents, and probably our grandparents. Nobody had ever been through anything like that. The only thing we've ever been through, really, and it's not my memory, it was the Spanish influenza, the Spanish flu, which was World War I. My gosh, over 100 years ago, and we didn't get it. That it's not, cover your mouth or cover your this. That it's everywhere. We couldn't. It's like, can you visualize $50 billion? No, I have trouble visualizing $50 on a certain time of month, really. And so if we can't even conceive of it, we don't know where to look. We don't know what to do. And if we keep feeling ourselves uncertain and disoriented, then after a while, uncertain and disoriented becomes who we are, because it's the thing we have done every day, after day, after day. And it's a fairly common concept that if you do something for 90 days, it becomes a habit. It becomes the beginning of a habit. If you do it consistently for 90 days. Okay, well, we did it for 3.5, almost 4 years. And we didn't realize that we were forming habits of unhabitual behavior. We are group animals. We are herd animals. We are tribe animals. This is how we stay alive and survive and thrive. We were forced to become hermits. We were forced to collect in very small, safe groups. We had never done that in our lives. And it was ground shaking. Coming out of it, and people inviting us, okay, the coast is clear, come on back. Everybody's saying, yeah, fool me once. And it has been a slow, gradual, timid creatures coming out of the caves in the forest experience. Terrifying. Terrifying for our children, terrifying for our teachers, for our leaders, for our everyday heroes, terrifying for business, terrifying for rule makers, decision makers, rule breakers, terrifying for everyone, because that wasn't on our bingo card. We don't know what to do with it. And what doesn't help, what hasn't helped, is this tendency to think that we can multitask and do each of the many things we choose to pick up, as well as just the one. That math doesn't work. You can do 100% of one thing. You can't do 100% of three things. All you can do if you want 100% is 33 and a third, 33 and a third, 33 and a third, because that's the math. So you're only given a third of your ability to each thing. So if that's how we came into COVID, if we had already developed the scroll on, so we were never really paying attention, it scared us more than if we had been looking around and paying attention. So for people like me, and I was raised to keep paying attention and keep looking around and eye on the ball. No, you can't do many things well at the same time. I saw COVID through a different lens, and I saw the cure, and I don't mean the cure for COVID, but I mean the cure for our behavior through the lens of a performance artist and a teacher. I not only performed in shows. Good morning, Daniel. I not only performed in shows, I trained actors, I coached actors, I directed the ensembles. And so I saw behavior. I saw the behavior they brought to the role. I saw what we needed to help them put down, set aside so that they could step fully into the role. That's where, by the way, where's my later folder? I'm going to talk about this in a minute. That's where my whole idea for the later folder came from, way back when I first was coaching actors. This was my key to their success. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So what I saw in COVID was this. I saw that people did not have an instruction booklet. They didn't know they needed one, because if you don't have one, you don't know that it's missing. Right? So, and I had grown up knowing I didn't have an instruction booklet because I knew I didn't know what I was doing, but everybody else looked like they did. So I said, they must have a book. Turns out, no, they were guessing. But they'd been guessing together for such a long time. They all knew the dance steps and they were all familiar with the song. Me, not so much. Hang on. So my project is called Pivotry in Motion. A pivot is a physical reset, sharp, sudden, immediate, dramatic. Well, in order to tell people that they need to pivot, that they need to lean in, 99 and 44, 100% of all motivating people don't tell you you have to reset your thinking process first. They don't tell you that it requires an understanding that we have alternate ways to do things already firmly embedded. And the reason we don't know we have them is because they're an automatic survival mechanism. They come forward whether we know it or not. So when we're in a crisis moment and we can't think and we're running around in circles, we don't have the capacity to draw on that knowledge or go get it because we don't know it's there. So I said, I do, and I can teach it. And I can give people the understanding through their own aha moments with me in workshops, in training, in consulting, to see the math that when this happens, I do this. Yes. And that's entirely you. Yes. Okay. But when that happens, you don't do that. When that happens, what do you do? Well, I do this. So you do know how to go find the other part of you. Well, yeah, I guess I do. All right, then. So now let's figure out where you save it, where you file it, where you keep it, so that when you want it on demand, you just go get it. You don't wait for it to materialize on its own because it's in the moment. And then I teach them. And what happens to them is this. My poor flamingo looks like he's drowning. Hang on a second here. What happened? There you go. What happens to them is their confidence levels rise because they know they just proved it, that they got it. They have the skill and they've practiced it their whole lives. And that makes them good at it. And when they need it, usually it comes, but if they're distracted, they know where to find it. And it's that certainty that feels like we're on solid ground that removes the worst, thickest, widest layer of this mindset, not mindset, but state of mind, actually, that I call overwhelm. Not overwhelmed, that's a different thing. Overwhelm is the product of extended confusion that leads to exhaustion, to the point that you are simply unable, period. There is no follow-up to that. Unable to do what? Just unable. You're done. And the danger there, this is a mental and emotional breakdown. This is the thinking and processing version of toxic shock. When somebody is badly injured, the most dangerous thing is on equal levels. It is the injury itself and the likelihood that the body will go into shock. If you go into toxic shock, the body's trying to protect you. It starts shutting things down. If it's not interrupted, it shuts everything down, including you, and you don't make it. So what we are experiencing right now in overwhelm is not the physical toxic shock, but the mental and emotional. Problem is, mental and emotional are connected to physical. And when you see people who can't bring themselves to bother to change out of pajamas, to have a shower, to brush their teeth, to put on shoes, they're not making it. They're not surviving. They're eking out the most minimal existence. And that's a hell of a way to be. And I know how to fix that. And I've known it my whole life. So it was COVID and the behaviors of people around me that reminded me of this thing that I know. And almost every person I know who is a military or a transient person who was raised in that gypsy environment, and people who work in the public, so they're constantly filtering and resetting and representing themselves based on the person that they are next required to serve. And they do it so automatically. When I say to somebody, are you in sales or promotion? Yes. Then you know what I'm saying. Oh yeah, all the time. Do it all the time. Good. They're not necessarily the people who are capable of showing and leading and guiding exhausted, overwhelmed, confused people to a point where they see a little glimmer and the little voice inside them says, what's that? And the minute we can get you there, just to the place where we hear your little voice say, oh, we're on the way. And I can do that. What I first had to do was bring my boat to the dock and invite everyone to come on a tour and see what it's like inside. And if it was interesting enough and curious making enough and entertaining enough, then I would say, would you like to come for a ride? Would you care for a window or an aisle seat? And that way, Pivotry in Motion would set sail and we would be on our way to a much happier and capable and positive and confident way of living and breathing and believing and connecting and communicating and collaborating and supporting and nurturing. So this journey of 336 steps is getting us there. So the topic today, after that long preamble, let's have a little sip, is, do you know where your feet are? And as I was writing that this morning, it sounds like an introduction to The Opposites from You Can't Fit on Television. Because it's what? And so that's what I said. It sounds like it's not. But it's not that you're wrong, because technically feet, head. Okay, probably, So here's what I'm talking about. Kind of a teacher-student story. Two girls are in history class, and they've got their history books open. Teacher's talking. But they've got their history books open, and it's a shared desk. Remember the days of the shared desk? Have I just dated myself back to 1492? Shared desk. They've got their history books open, but inside their history books, they're doing their math homework from yesterday, because math is next class, and they didn't do it. Right? So they're doing their math, and they're sort of, and every so often looking up and figuring, we got this, we can multitask. We're all that. An actor's actor. Oh, Freddie, thank you. So all of a sudden, quietly, this is the two of them, they're just quietly looking up and being very polite, so doing their math. The voice between them says, hello. And they froze. Teacher said, I want to tell you something that will change your lives. And they started to put their math books close. And she said, no, just listen. Don't do something while I'm talking. Just listen. So they sat there, terrified. And she said, keep your head where your feet are. And the girls looked at each other and then they looked at her. One of them said, what? And the teacher said, where are your feet? The girl said, they're underneath my desk. And the teacher said, that's right. Where's your desk? She said, history class. She said, and that's where your head needs to be. Keep your head where your feet are. Do you know where your feet are? You should. And then she walked away. She didn't punish them. She didn't give them any kind of a thing, because she knew that they would be taking that story and elevating it and expanding it. And when class was over and they moved on, they would be doing all of her work for her in sharing that message that she left. And good morning, Warren. How are you feeling? I hope you're feeling better. And Julie says, hi. Hi, beauty. And so the conversation, do you know where your feet are, is actually the reverse. But if I said, do you know where your head is, you would think I was saying, give your head a shake. That's not. What I'm saying is, where your feet are still requires direction from here. Where your feet are is where the moment is. It is the place we are living. If your head isn't here, how long is it going to take you to get your thinking and your believing and your optimism and enthusiasm and strategic capabilities back when they are suddenly under surprise attack? From the teacher sneaking up behind you, from who knows what, a snow load on the roof and there's an ominous crack, lightning and thunder and the lights go out. If your head is not here to begin with, how long does it take to get it back? You think it happens instantaneously? No, it takes 3 seconds. And 3 seconds can win you and lose you a race. All kinds of races, all kinds of competitions. Because timing is everything. So the conversation about, do you know where your feet are? I want to tell you a couple of things about this conversation. My dad, when he taught me to play tennis, he said, always stay on the balls of your feet. Why? Because it's those 3 seconds. We're spectators if we have our weight on our heels. We are participants and hopefully winners if we are ready and our energy is forward and our balance is forward and we're paying attention and we are ready to engage. We have our weapon of mass construction in our hands. Can you tell I'm left-handed? And we are ready. But if we have our feet back and our weight back, and we're just kind of watching the game going on, we're not there. Our head is not there. Our head has not said, are we in this? Or is it saying, oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't worn this tennis dress? And that's the 3-second moment of error, window of win or loss. It's ours. It's our window. So that metaphor, keep your eye on the ball. Where's the ball? Where is it now? What's it doing? Where was it a minute ago? What is that doing? What is he doing? What is she doing? What are they doing? Where's the ball? Is only possible if your head is where your feet are, which is front and center, paying attention. A couple of hockey players who created massive successes in their careers were legendary. In fact, the most recent, I think, is Sid Crosby, who was just involved in the Canada-US games, the Four Nation Games. And he's always anticipating. He's always watching the behaviors of the players as the puck moves. We don't know what the playbook of the opposite team is, but we can predict what it's probably going to do by seeing where people move, because there's only so many combinations of moves. And if you've been playing for 11 billion years, you see them. Only if you're watching, only if you're paying attention. Something extraordinary happening around us all today is a shift in mindset and attitude and priorities. And I was talking to someone and I said, I think it's really important for us to keep our eyes open. And the other person said, well, there are people who that's their job. And I said, oh, yes, of course, but they're people first. And everybody has a moment where they need to sneeze and close their eyes, or they cough, or they see somebody walking by, or they hear a sudden noise, and they're distracted. And it's not that we are qualified to take their job, but we're in the boat too. So we should all keep our eyes sharp. We should all pay attention. We should all be like Sid Crosby and Alexander Ovechkin and all the other great players in the game now, McDavid. We want to be paying attention to the ebb and flow so that we know where to stand. I'm about to mix a metaphor. So we know where to stand when the salmon jumps upriver. We want to be there and say, hi, how you doing? And the salmon says, ah, shit. How do we have that ability? By maintaining our head where our feet are, so that we are paying attention to what is going on as much as possible and still enjoy what's going on. So the metaphor with my dad and the metaphor with the teacher were change makers in my life who gave me a little tap and said, excuse me. And I'd say, what? You're not paying attention. Do that. Oh, sorry. And kept me back on track. I went through, Gretzky said, don't go to where the puck is, go to where the puck was. Yes, he did. And who taught him that? His dad who watched the game forever and a day, because this avid and committed spectator, lover of the game, lover of the sport, understood the internal mechanics of how it works. And that we can understand that somebody is front and center, we still have to be sure that they're also front and center here, where our feet are. So my dad, my teacher, and then my director in theater, who said the most profound thing to me one day when I'd had a very complicated day. My life tends to have occasional moments of complicated days. And I had come to the theater. I was rehearsed and I knew my lines and I was ready and all the stuff, because I love the theater and I love the performance and I loved the opportunity to be part of the whole thing. So I was in it, a million% in it, but distracted. And he took me aside and he said, I want you to do something for me. And he said, I want you to go back outside to your car. And I said, why? I said, and he said, just take a minute, go back outside to the car. And when you get to the car, you don't have to get in the car, but when you get to the car, I want you to put your hand on the car. And then I want you to say, okay, all this other stuff that I brought, I'm leaving in the car. I'll come back for you later. Give the car a little pat and come back inside. And I don't want you to bring any of that shit with you. Do you know why? No, I'm still thinking, what a brilliant idea. Leave it in the car. Leave it in the car. Physically leave it in the car. Give yourself the physical act of placing it someplace not here. And he said, I'm going to tell you the most important thing to remember about your job here now. Okay? He said, the people who are going to fill the seats, the reason we are here, because without them it's a rehearsal. We are here because they are here. The reason they put good, hard-earned money down for a ticket was not to hear about your day. They paid that money and they took the time and the care to be here to see and hear what your character has to say. They don't care about your stuff. They are willing to leave their stuff in the car. That's called the willing suspension of disbelief. They are willing to sit in the chair, hard chair, facing the front, shut up when the curtains open, and climb into our world with us for the duration. The least you can do, we can do, is show up. Not much to say after that, really, because there is no flaw in it. It applies beyond theater. You know, somebody said, why are you always so excited? Why are you always so up and present and ready to go at every event? And I say, well, why would I go through all the trouble to leave the house if I'm not? I might as well stay under the bed if I'm not going to show up. It's a lot of work for me. It's a lot of work for me to be here. Why would I go to that much effort and then not do the thing that I truly love to do, which is talk to you? Why would I not do that? Somebody would have to give my head a shake. And then when they had my head and they'd finish shaking it, say, okay, look down. Where are your feet? Right here. So from that story, from that conversation with that very wise director, came the later folder. The later folder is literally cell phone size. Literally cell phone size. So you can't tell me you don't have room for it, because you have room for your phone. So shut up. So you bring it with you. Bring a little pen. Doesn't matter. And every time you complete, let's call it a chapter. So you get up, you get organized, you get yourself facing the front. Before you leave the house, stop, take out the folder. And if anything bothered you, if anything destroyed your confidence or your focus, write it down. You know, I use eyeliner. Okay, so the eyeliner pencil breaks. Okay, now I had to get a different one, or I had to sharpen that one. That took a time and it was a stressor. So eyeliner pencil. That's it. Don't tell the story, just write eyeliner pencil. And then whatever else. Well, I'd forgotten to do this and I didn't have enough cream, so I had to use milk and it was a weird taste in my coffee. Fine, write it down. Grocery list, milk, cream. Just write those things down. And underneath them, when you've gone through it, before you leave the house, draw a line underneath it. Put it back in your purse, in your pocket, whatever. And get in the car, go to the bus, or get on your bike, or head off down the street. When you finish the commute and you reach your destination, do it again. Whatever went wrong during the commute, write it down. Draw a line under it. Why are you drawing a line under it? Because it is now in the later folder, and you are metaphorically leaving it in the car in the parking lot before the show. So that when you got rid of all the stresses from getting ready, you didn't have those stresses distracting you on your commute. When you get rid of the commute, you don't have that stress or the getting ready stress when you walk in the building, when you show up for work, when you're in the store. You're 100% here. Your head is where your feet are. And now you're going to do 100% what you came here to do and be. And you do that all through the day. And at the end of the day, before you go to bed, or in bed is even better, take out the later folder. And just take yourself through all the things that upset you in those moments. And if they don't upset you now because you've passed through, you have moved through, the energy and the toxic power of that energy has been disarmed by you, by writing it down and saying later. Not forget it, because we don't. but give it permission to live there, not here. At the end of the day, when you look through all of them, there will only be maybe one or two that still you can feel something about that. Those you want to do a little check mark or circle, whatever. Why? Because the fact that you still feel them means that they are connected to something deeper. And we will talk about that another time. We will deal with that another time. The reason we can go to sleep is because we know we won't forget it. We know that it's normal. And we know that on a scale of 1 to 10 or 50, we managed and overcame and moved on from most of the interruptions in our day. We got this. How did we got this? Because we are Pivotry masters. We know how to shape and shift to meet and master what's coming our way. And we also know how to step back, like Bugs Bunny seeing the Tasmanian devil, opening the front door, strolling to the back of the house, opening the back door, and allowing the devil to his way through. Close the door, pick up a carrot on the way through the house, close the front door, carry on with our day. We have those abilities. We are that clever. The reason we forget is not because we're not clever. It's not because we're not good at it. The reason we forget is because so many things. Are there more things now than ever before? No. What we have done now instead of before is we have said, yes, I can carry that. And we have accepted this and this and this and oh, two of those. When we weren't as stressed, we didn't have all these things that we had agreed to participate in. Going all the way back, this part of our brain, this subconscious back part of our brain that keeps us alive, that reminds us to blink and swallow and pump the heart and push the adrenaline in times of danger and excitement. It only knows of one tribe. It's pre-verbal. We can't calm it down. We can't say, there, I don't know, dear, I'm sure it'll be fine. That brain's not listening. That brain's a little busy. It's actually, that brain is running 95% of all of our functions. The little egotistical front part of the brain, the conscious brain that thinks it's all that in a bag of chips. Oh, you. Don't let your emotions control you. They're there. Conscious brain. I'm in charge. I know what I'm doing. You're not the boss of me. So when we understand these things, when we see and we say, oh yeah, yeah, I forgot about that. We are so much more immediately able to catch that ball that comes at us, to avoid that thing that comes whizzing by. Not because we're superheroes, but because we're here. Oh, we're here, front and center. We're not talking to somebody and filing our nails and on the phone and thinking about what we're going to have for supper tonight. We're 100% here, because 100% here is a very full moment. And we need to be present for that, because not only do we deserve it, but all these other people, all these other tribes, all these other responsibilities that we have said, I got this, you can count on me. They are. They believed us. What do they do when we don't show up? Because we weren't paying attention. Oh, yeah, that. And so what we're saying about pivotry in motion, and by the way, I know it sounds like poetry in motion, right? I know. Na, 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 na. So it's pivotry in motion because we are in motion. Even when we're standing as still as we possibly can, we're in motion. Molecules, molecules, ideas, thoughts, energies, hormones, blinking, swallowing, heart beating. We're in motion, which means that we're not standing stock still with nothing else going on. We got stuff. Our ability to assess and address by going and getting that slightly different aspect of our personality, that slightly different way of presenting ourselves is our superpower. When we look at animals, you watch these videos, these nature videos, Mutual of Omaha, Wild Kingdom. When we see the way animals respond in a moment of crisis, they freeze and then they move. They freeze first to assess what they sense. They're naturally camouflaged, so they hope that if it's something they can't escape from, they can just stay frozen, and that will allow them to hide and be unseen, especially if the wind is going the right way. But when they move like lightning. Sometimes they have the opportunity to present a fearsome presence to the predator, and they build themselves up, they puff themselves up. You see a cat, a house cat, the back arches and the hair comes up, and its shoulders seem bigger, and it hisses and it makes nasty noises. Dogs, their backs don't arch, but they all of their muscles and everything get big, and they growl and they present the biggest, strongest presence of themselves. So what appears to be a threat says, check please. Hopefully. Those are survival tactics. The best defense is a great offense. What we are looking at is primitive survival. What we are looking at is a reaction to. Animals are living in a state of reaction much of the time. We are also animals. We just have a bigger ego. What we need to do to not merely survive, to not merely navigate, but find new paths, different tools to thrive, is we have to be proactive. We have to have the ability to assess and address with what is called a preemptive strike. And this is what Gretzky's dad taught him. That thing, don't go where the puck is, go where it, don't think about this, think about that, and they'll predict where it's going to be, and then you can go and wait for it. Hi, how you doing? What kept you? The puck. If we are proactive, we are owning the game. We are owning our role. We are owning our opportunity. Watching football, it is the quarterback's job to get rid of the ball and hand it to somebody who knows what to do with it. The people who know what to do with it, they know where they're supposed to go. They got that. That's good. What they have to do is be aware and alert and recognizing and predicting the behaviors of the other players who do have a game plan, but then they change it on the fly as the need arises. The receiver has to be able to say, aha, but I'll bet you didn't think of this, and do something completely unexpected in a preemptive strike. What is he striking for? The goal line, the end zone, the goal, the basket. How do they do that? By having their head where their feet are all the time. It makes us much more watchful in our private lives. So this week, I want to get a Pivotry in Motion tattoo. This is a genuine project. Rhea, I'll tell you something. I have 2 images that I will show you. The new one, the new edition, our actual logo, was just completed 2 days ago. So exciting! And I can't wait to share it. And I'm going to say the theme image that I've had with me that has been guiding me all the way through this is also available. So I'll talk to you about that. And I think that would be an amazing thing to do. What a great, great idea. Thank you. So pivot in motion is more than a technique. It's a way of life. Freddie? It is. It is a way of life. It is our way of life. Pivotry in motion is our way of life. It's all of us. All of us actually live it. Those of us who study it and practice it and polish it know it. And there's the difference. So I attended 3 events this week already. 2 of them were the saying goodbye to a very long-standing friend in the community and the arts community. And one was a visitation, and then the next day was the funeral. And then the 3rd event was a meeting of the people in my community, in my branch of the union that I belong to as a performer. And in every one of those meetings, the same thing happened. It was me seeing my head and my feet in the same space to a degree that other people's were not. And I didn't necessarily recognize it and record it in the moment because busy. However, when I look back, I think, oh yeah, there's the difference. And by the way, when I'm saying this, I'm not saying I'm smarter. I'm not saying that I'm a more intelligent and I'm an evolved species. No. I'm saying that I was taught it and taught it and taught it and practiced it and polished it and perfected it from probably the age of 3, maybe even earlier, without realizing it. So if I'm not good at it by now, we should just, thonk me firmly on the back of the head and take me out back and bury me feet up so we can find me in the spring. Just get me out of the line of traffic. So what happened at the first event were 3 conversations, and each one took me to a place where I had been with that person. And as they reminded me of our moment together, we were standing together speaking now, completely connected on the same wavelength about that previous time. We were so completely in sync that when she said, and I said, and how are you now? And she said, well, fortunately, I'm very involved in a beautiful project to honor him, and proceeded to tell me what it was. And because I was fully present with her, I saw an opening for me to help her, and in doing so, help me. And I said, okay. this is what I can do if you will permit me. And I explained what I was very willing and very able to do. And we were so completely connected. We could have been anywhere. We were out of the current moment together in that clicked connection of full focus, and accomplished a couple of remarkable things in maybe 5 minutes. A few minutes after that, the same kind of thing happened with the next person. And it was one of, again, I wasn't thinking about her, although when I moved and I saw her and I said, so wonderful, and how are you? And we did that thing. And then I instantly remembered the last time we were together. And I said, I have not forgotten. It still wakes me and makes me blink, that moment we had. And when I did that, I saw her go there with me. And here we were together in this moment, fully present now, talking about how we feel now, having been through that moment together. And then she said, and she suggested an idea. And I said, and I suggested something to complement it. And we had the same in-depth, deep, fully connected conversation to the same depth as that one, different subject, for maybe another 5 minutes. It didn't take half an hour, although I often do, or an hour. This was intense, and it didn't require more than this lean and clean and green, green as in growing concept. And I said, do you have my contact information? And she said, give it to me. So I did. And then we moved on because there were other people to see. The third person at that event was a conversation, very polite in the present tense. I didn't really recognize who it was. I wasn't aware of our backstory. The other person seemed a little unfocused, but it was a very emotional time. And I ascribed it to that. That person wasn't as fully present in the conversation with me as I was with them. It doesn't matter. But I could tell that we were not quite together. The next day, I go to the second of these remembrance events. I see the first two. And the way we smile at each other is a follow-up of our conversations the day before, which meant that in case that little seedling of an idea needed watering, it was getting its nutrition right now, because there we were, the way we smiled. After the ceremony, we hugged, and that cemented it. But the third person from the day before, when they were asked to get up and speak, and I heard the person's name, I remembered who they were. I remembered who they were to me, and why that was an important memory. And I had dismissed it because I'd moved on, because I bring my fully present with me, and I'm completely in this moment, He, however, hadn't been the day before. That was what some of the uncertainty would have been, also the emotion of the time. But I didn't realize until I had his name and I saw him fully present in his function, and I really heard him speak, that I understood our connection. And I thought, isn't that interesting? How far off the mark I was, because I didn't have all the information, because I hadn't fully focused on him, because I didn't know who he was. Later that second day, at my next meeting, I had the opportunity to meet 5 people, each of whom has played a very important role in my career. and will continue to, thanks to that meeting. Because when we greeted each other, how have you been? Large hug. What's going on? We re-cemented our twined lives, our tapestry threads. We reconnected. And the new people that I hadn't met, because we were both fully present, both very interested on where is the connection for us, we made some really good, solid gains. And I walked away, this morning when I woke up and I thought, that was a lot of stuff going on. That was a lot of connection going on. Why wasn't I exhausted? And the answer was because I wasn't trying to juggle half a dozen flaming chainsaws. I wasn't trying to be all things to all people all the time. When I was in the moment, I was in the moment, and then the moment ended. Turn the page, next. Doesn't mean I forget. Doesn't mean I forgot. It means that I had a new moment to give my full attention to. So I wasn't carrying. I had all that stuff in my later folder that I would get back to. And when I finally got home, I sat down and I opened the later folder and I looked at the past couple of days and I thought, wow, that's why this works. That's why it's so important. That's why that genius director of mine has arguably and forever altered the trajectory of my life. Because he said, that's the easier path. And I said, alrighty then, let's take it. So what I want to leave you with today is this. We are reluctant to let go of things we absolutely know because they make us feel safe. The status quo is the status quo because it doesn't want to be changed. The thing is, change is happening all around us. Change is not something that we can stop. We can elect to be part of the change in some way. And I will talk about that another day. If we elect to opt out, I'm going to tell you something very important, and I hope you really honor yourselves by listening to this. If we opt out of change, we don't remain the same. We get left behind. We are no longer part of the game. We're on the sidelines. And on the sidelines is not where it's safe. Where it's safe is in motion. Where it's safe is in the herd. Where it's safe is focusing on the path. Because that's how people like us got here. By taking one step after the next, after the next. Even if you say, I don't need one of those newfangled contraptions, I'm perfectly okay, I can walk the way I'm walking. Even if you're walking, you're changing because you're moving forward or back or sideways. Change is all around us, in us, over, under, and through. Every part of us is changing every minute. If you choose to stick with something, you remove yourself from opportunity because it passes you by. And we are never sure when opportunity is coming. It doesn't mean we have to constantly run to the door or Chris, run to the porch to see if it's here yet. Oh my God. We can do that because we're keen. the one thing we don't want to do is turn our back when we can keep moving. We don't want to allow overwhelm to override all our possibility. And I can help you with that. I've spent my entire life perfecting it. I know how it works. I know where it lives. And life is so much better when we know we can say, okay, that was a little more than I'd expected, but we got it. We got this because we did. Because we climbed out from under the bed. We faced the front. We put on our stuff and we said, alrighty then, and headed out the door with our letter folder in our other hand. Do you know where your feet are? Do you care? I hope so. And if you're not sure how to make that part of what you do, you know where to find me. I'm right here. I'm the one beside her. This is the Abby Mom show, in case you didn't know. And my Hallelujah chorus is the Care Bears. Okay, so busy weekend coming. In Canada, we're voting. Everybody who's in Canada watching, here's a thought. Head where your feet are. Vote. Do it. Look at the big picture. Take 5 steps back and say, what was that? Pay attention. Be Canadian this week. Vote. It matters. All right. I never talk politics. I'm not talking politics. I'm talking be here now, in the moment. Head where your feet are. All right. Okay. Closing drill. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Sean. So Ria, I'll be in touch. We'll chat at a higher level about imagery. Okay. It's going to be exciting. Let me know where to find you. Okay. Send me a contact, right? What I really what I really want us to do as we go into the weekend, aside from that little thing that you didn't see me coming, is I want us to remember that March is here. It's just around the corner. It's just over there. And March means spring is on the way. Yes. All kinds of new beginnings. And with March just looming on the horizon, you know what's right there? Right there. Birthday month. Yay. So we got a lot of stuff that's happening. All right. In between now and next week, the drill is this. Be good to you. I mean it. I'm not just saying, how are you? No, be good to you. Why? Because you deserve it. Stay present. Check out your feet. They're fabulous, with or without shoes. And remember to hug your loved ones because they deserve it. All right? Thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you. Thank you. Because without you, there is no show. It's a rehearsal. So you are the reason I'm here. Thank you for making that possible. And I will catch you next time.